it really is our passion working with nonprofits and helping them find solutions that make sense for them and helping to empower them to take the savings from going solar and put it back into their communities where it really makes a difference. I think everyone in the nonprofit world and all of us installers and the finance companies and developers, everybody is excited about the Inflation Reduction Act and what opportunity is presented by this huge history-making significant climate legislation. We've never seen anything like it. So I'm taking a moment just to celebrate that.
Welcome to the Solar Energy Channel, where you'll get an honest inside look at all things solar. Today, I'm honored to have just a great guest, Nicole Withrow from CollectiveSun, who has been nothing short of amazing in the work that she has been doing with helping nonprofits not only structure and finance solar projects, but also in providing information out to the industry through their webinars and different content that they've been putting out. We've been had the pleasure and the blessing to work with CollectiveSun over the years, and it's just an honor, Nicole, to have this opportunity to sit down with you and learn more about what CollectiveSun is doing now, how they're helping nonprofits, and how we can improve our partnership together. So welcome, Nicole.
Thank you, Warren. It is such a pleasure to be here, and I really appreciate the invitation to talk with you and your audience.
Absolutely. Why don't you take a moment, Nicole, and just tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about CollectiveSun.
Sure. So I have had the distinct pleasure of working with CollectiveSun for almost 6 years now, and really come from a background that was not renewables focused, but more customer service oriented and dealing with contract fulfillment and contract negotiation. So this has been quite an endeavor, and just been such a pleasure to learn more about renewables, to work with nonprofits, and of course, always enjoy working with trusted partners like Paradise Energy.
Great. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the agenda and what we're going to talk through today?
So I really thought that kind of hitting these bullets would be really important to any nonprofit that's looking at solar, because there isn't a singular solution that works for everyone. So having a variety is really paramount to being able to really weigh options and choose something that fits for each unique scenario. I also wanted to take an opportunity to just talk a little bit about who CollectiveSun is and what we do, which you helped me out with a lot of that as well. And then a little bit about how you choose between these different options, because that itself can be enough. You can have an hour-long conversation just about that.
Sure. All right. So let's start off with, who is CollectiveSun?
I love answering this question. So we're a solar finance company, and we are dedicated to serving nonprofit and tax-exempt organizations nationwide. We've been connecting nonprofits with capital for their solar projects for the past decade plus. And even though we're in this really exciting and challenging moment where we're all trying to unpack the Inflation Reduction Act, and that goes for not just installers and finance companies like CollectiveSun, but nonprofits, they want to be armed with resources. So trying to make sense of all that and put it into little manageable pieces that are in plain English has been really exciting to really dig deep and get into that. I will say that even with all those changes, our role is the same, and that's to help nonprofits navigate their solar journey, meet them where they are in the conversation, and to connect them with financing solutions that fit the unique needs of their organization.
And I will say that CollectiveSun has really done a remarkable job of that. And the challenge for nonprofits has been that they can't take advantage of the tax credits in order to go solar. And CollectiveSun has been, prior to the Inflation Reduction Act, extremely innovative in figuring that out. And probably the only company that does it as well, or financing company that does it as well as you do it, and as innovative as you've done it. But then to pivot and to innovate and be able to accommodate the new changes with the Inflation Reduction Act in your offerings is nothing short of remarkable. So congratulations for that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
We'll just point out that, why should nonprofits listen to anything that CollectiveSun has to say? I just want to mention that, we have over 200 projects nationwide that we have partnered with the financing on for nonprofits. And so that has taught us a lot about the challenges that nonprofits face when they go solar, dealing with their committees and boards and navigating that and how to support them there, but also just kind of general challenges with the solar process itself, which you guys are obviously experts at as well. So it's always nice to know that they have you guys to go to for advice and guidance there, and we can also assist with that as well.
Absolutely. And you said you're active in 25 states. Is there a map or something on your website or a
Oh
place
gosh,
to go
if
to
you go
find?
to the next slide, I'm gonna show you a map.
There we go.
I love this map. It's such a rewarding thing to view from the perspective of an organization that's trying to get solar on every nonprofit in the country. So these dots obviously or pins reflect where we have projects and the states we're active in. It doesn't mean that if you don't see a pin in your part of the country that we couldn't do a project there. We just haven't gotten there yet. So as long as your state legislation supports the type of ownership model that you're exploring, whether it's a lease, a PPA, everywhere they'll let you do a loan. So we can always work anywhere in the country you want to go solar with a loan.
Great.
So I think everyone in the nonprofit world and all of us installers and the finance companies and developers, everybody is excited about the Inflation Reduction Act and what opportunity is presented by this huge history-making significant climate legislation. We've never seen anything like it. So I'm taking a moment just to celebrate that.
Absolutely.
And just say if we're surprising anybody right now by telling you that as a nonprofit, you have a pathway to access the nonprofit equivalent of the ITC, welcome. This is such an exciting thing to share if you're hearing it for the first time. But, for others, they know it's there and they're looking for resources. So I did put together some resources and, they're on a future slide. If you want to share that, you can certainly share that, Warren. But part of, again, back to this kind of arming folks with resources. I've never met groups that are like nonprofits. Like they really want to be well informed. I truly believe that they take this decision that they're making on behalf of their nonprofit more seriously than they took the decision to put solar on their own home, right? It's really a great conversation to be a part of. But that means they need these resources. So I did throw some things on that slide about just identifying resources. I mean, I don't want to go too deep into the weeds on the tax benefits. They're there. You need to do some due diligence and research. Check out our webinars that kind of break that down. I know you guys at Paradise have done great work also explaining these benefits. So I don't want to get marred down in we could talk for an hour straight just about the tax benefits, I'm sure.
Sure.
But resources, just looking at, depending on where you are in the country, going solar can look a little bit different. The things that are available to you, whether you can do a PPA, whether you can do a lease. Everybody, again, can do a cash purchase. You can make a purchase with grant funds, donations. All of those things are great as far as whether or not your utility company will permit it. You can totally do those things. But if you just need some basic resources and you've extended or expended the use of what's available on the CollectiveSun website, the Paradise Energy website, and you need more, we encourage you to go to like Solar United Neighbors. They've got great resources. The folks at Interfaith Power and Light, even if you're not a faith community, they've got regional specific information that's going to resonate for you, regardless of, if you are a faith community, it's regardless of your denomination. It's across all types of faith communities. And let's just say you're a Boys and Girls Club. This stuff is still going to be relevant for you in your region. So these are great places to start. And again, just want to remind folks, if they're watching this, they probably already know the great resources that Paradise Energy is putting out there. So I can't say enough positive things about that.
Well, thank you, Nicole. And to confirm, we will add all of these resources and links in the description below.
Fantastic.
All right, so let's talk about some of the solutions that you offer.
Okay, I'm officially going to just let you know, Warren, that this is my favorite part of any conversation is ways to solve, the conundrum of how do you pay for a solar system. And I just want to say that, let's unpack the loan first. So the SunForAll solar loan, it wasn't designed by banks. It was designed by nonprofit professionals. So it's got really friendly underwriting standards that any nonprofit's going to look at that application and say, oh, excellent. We can navigate this. It's not going to cause anyone to cry or need to take a couple days off. But some of the features of um, the loan has a payment holiday during construction, right? So that just means that there are no loan payments while the system's being built. There are no prepayment penalties. So if you wanted to apply additional payments to the loan, you can certainly do that. Or if you want to just pay the whole thing off early, you can do that too. And there's no penalty to the nonprofit. There's no collateral beyond the solar equipment itself. So a lot of times, like people are exploring PACE loans. These are great loans with long-term lengths, but they're securing those loans with the property. And a lot of folks take reservation with that kind of thought. So if that's a situation you're in, just know that this loan is secured by the solar equipment itself, which can be a big highlight for some folks.
And
And
when
I,
you talk, sorry, when you're talking
yeah,
about long-term loans, what are we talking about? 12 years, 15 years, 20 years? How do
so
you determine that?
for our loan, the term length is up to 10 years. And we say up to 10 years because we've seen some projects that had so much savings that we didn't want to lock the nonprofit into a 10-year term when that was just going to lock them into more interest payments. And we didn't want to do that. So we say up to 10 years, but most
Okay,
projects are going to end up with that 10-year term.
great.
And it is really important just to mention that when we determine the interest rate for this loan, it's really based on the individual nonprofit. So the interest rates start at 4.99%. But when we lock in a rate for you, it's going to be about the work that you're doing in the community. We call that your community impact or your mission alignment with us and the family foundation that we work with. So it's not based on your credit score. So a little different approach. But we designed the loan for folks that want to take advantage of direct pay. So the intention is you've got this loan that provides 100% of the installation costs because I don't know about Paradise, but I've not met any other installers that were interested in offering an IOU for that anticipated rebate amount. So while you wait for that rebate, you're going to need 100% of the installation costs, and we provide that. And we do that in there are a couple different kind of chunks to this loan. So there's gap or short-term financing for the amount you anticipate you're going to get back for the direct pay tax rebate. And then long-term financing for the remaining installation costs. And we just roll that into one loan. So there's not two separate loans. We're going to roll it all together. It'll have one set payment. And when you do get the rebate back, the direct pay tax rebate, then you remit that as part of the loan repayment. So it's kind of like having a balloon payment in the 24th month, or if you get it back sooner, within 30 days of receiving that, you'll make that payment.
Sure, that's great.
Let's see the term. So we talked about the term length. We talked about interest rate. Just want to throw out there that when a nonprofit chooses the SunForAll solar loan, then they're going to be the owner of the system. They're going to be responsible for maintaining that system, responsible for negotiating their contract with Paradise Energy, I assume, providing their own project management. So this is very different from the next solution that we're going to talk about, which is that the SunForAll solar lease.
Yeah, and just one last point
Yeah.
here on the loan. I assume they get to take the SREX or any income associated with owning the system as well.
Yes. Every solution at CollectiveSun, the answer to that question is the same. So
Yeah.
whether it's the solar loan, the solar lease, or even the SPA, the customer keeps any RECs or other utility incentives that might be available to them in their region.
And then, sorry, I said one more question, but I got one more. In terms of the process and the timeline, if a nonprofit's looking to go and they want to explore this, how long does it take for them to apply, go through the process, get approval, and get funding and start the project?
So once we have their PV proposal and we've vetted their contractor, obviously we've worked with Paradise Energy before, so you're already vetted. But for any installer that might be new to us, let's just say in that scenario where they don't end up making the best choice ever of going with Paradise Energy, then we would vet that installer. That does take a little time to do. But essentially from the time they submit their underwriting application, I would say 30 days is reasonable, provided they have submitted all the required information. That timeline can be extended if there are, bits and pieces provided like over the course of a long period of time. So it's really going to be dependent on the timeliness and responsiveness of the customer.
Excellent. Super. All right, let's talk about the SunForAll solar lease.
All right. So we call this solution the easy button solution because CollectiveSun, we use our nonprofit arm, CollectiveSun Foundation, which is a nonprofit, to be the lessor. We're the lessor, the owner of the equipment. We're going to do all the heavy lifting, secure affordable financing, make sure the project is built. We don't get paid until the project's built and the nonprofit is seeing savings. So we're going to take care of construction management, including the review and verification of contractor milestones. We're going to secure lien waiver and releases to protect the nonprofit property owner from construction liens. We manage the construction payments to the contractors, to the subcontractors and materials suppliers. There's no lease payment due from the nonprofit until the system, again, is fully installed and generating savings. No application fees, no setup fees, no fees of any kind, no hassles for the nonprofit. If they're really hesitant or feeling uncomfortable with this idea of understanding direct pay, they don't need to do that in this scenario because the party that owns the equipment is responsible for that tax filing. So with the lease, CollectiveSun owns the solar equipment. The nonprofit owns the energy generated by the system. If there are wrecks, they retain those. And we're the ones that are going to be responsible for any kind of tax filing for the tax rebate. The lease rate itself takes some of that savings and passes it through indirectly through a lower lease rate. It's a 20-year lease. So it's a very traditional lease, simple monthly payment, 1.9% escalator annually. And once we have a PV proposal that we can work with that shows the year one savings and things like that, we can model this. You can see what the savings look like with the cost of the lease over that 20-year term. And including, we would show that to you net of the lease so that you understand what your savings look like. And if folks wanted to take an early buyout option, we do make those available end of years 6, 10, and 15. And of course, one of the big things with leases mitigates the risk of ownership. So any kind of operations or maintenance costs are included in your lease rate.
Sure. So that's a great way for nonprofits to structure financing if they don't want to put money out of pocket or have an ongoing monthly loan payment.
Exactly.
Or manage the project at all and maintain it.
And internal resources and bandwidth and time are so different with every organization that it's really a very personal decision. Like, what is the right solution?
Sure.
If you don't mind, I would love to still just mention the solar power agreement.
Yeah.
Just because, it's our legacy offering. This product was created by CollectiveSun to provide a pathway to allow nonprofits to save a portion of the tax credits pre-IRA. So before there was this beautiful, clean pathway to get the full glory, the benefit of the ITC. And before I get to why this solution is still viable for some folks that are nonprofits, I just want to talk about some of the benefits and features of the SPA. So the SPA, Solar Power Agreement, SPA, please forgive me, I abbreviated it already. It's a prepaid service agreement. It's not technically a lease. It's not a PPA. We're not selling energy. So this prepaid service agreement passes through to the customer a discount from 16 to 20%. The exact percentage is determined by the project cost. So we could figure that out if anybody identifies a need for this particular solution. But then the nonprofit would fund the remaining 84% using any funding mechanism that makes sense for them. So PACE loan, a loan from their local lender, cash reserves, donations from supporters, grant funds, or combinations of all of the above. But under this model, you own all the energy generated by the solar system, retain the RECs, or any other incentives outside of the federal tax benefits. Our team provides construction management, full operations and maintenance are included. The way that I describe this is like training wheels. So unlike the SunForAll solar lease where there's a 20-year term, the SPA, it also has a 20-year term, but at the end of year 6, the customer can take ownership of the solar system for no additional cost because they've prepaid a 20-year service agreement. So it's kind of just a wash, if you will. not to oversimplify that, but
Yeah.
there is actually a current situation or scenario under which a nonprofit that intended to apply for direct pay might find themselves in a position where an SPA would benefit them. And that is when folks have raised their funds through donations and through grant funds that are earmarked for solar and didn't realize, because a lot of folks were already raising money before we had these proposed regulations from the IRS, and we didn't even know of the excessive benefit rule yet. So for folks that find themselves in a conundrum where they were going to apply for the direct pay tax rebate, they raised funds that were restricted funds or earmarked for solar from tax exempt sources, they will become ineligible to get that tax rebate through direct pay. The SPA uses a for-profit entity to monetize tax benefits. So there is no excessive benefit rule. So we're able to get you a portion, so 16 to 20% of the tax benefits, and then you would be able to use those grant funds or donations that you raised specifically for your solar installation and still see some of those benefits from the ITC.
Great. So just so I understand that, so this is for nonprofits who probably have already started fundraising or fundraised already, have exceeded the limit of those earmarked funds and are now not eligible to get the direct pay. This is the preferred model for them.
Correct. And then, as a side note, anybody that's a for-profit that doesn't have an appetite, a tax appetite, I should say, this is a great solution for them as well.
Yeah, super.
All right, so maybe we should talk just a little bit about how do you make sense out of these three options? Where do you start in that conversation? And there isn't a right or wrong answer. I think I mentioned that earlier. It's really about what resonates with the internal culture and resources of an organization. So ask yourself, do you have in-house construction management expertise? We see a lot of larger nonprofits that they have entire departments dedicated to construction projects. So they have tons of experience with this. And then we see other nonprofits that they are completely working with volunteer staffing. They're already bandwidth constrained, and they don't have construction management expertise, let alone the time to manage an installation. So again, it's a really personal response here. Only the nonprofit that's going through this process can answer that question. And then, are you comfortable bearing construction risk? A solar installation, again, it is a construction project. I'm not trying to be a fearmonger here, but sometimes things can go maybe not as expected. So just make sure your nonprofit's prepared to navigate that and bear that risk is all I'm putting out into the universe there. Are you comfortable bearing long-term ownership risks? So if you purchase the system directly, like a loan, if you're using grant funds, if you're using any kind of donations and you're going to own the system directly, you are going to bear the long-term ownership risk. So operating and maintaining the solar system. With a lease or an SPA, another party, the owner of the equipment, is going to be responsible for that during the time they own that system. And it's also just worth mentioning, of course, that comparing a direct purchase with a lease is not apples to apples. It's going to be a little bit different, maybe be more like, do we buy a lawnmower and mow the lawn ourselves, or do we hire a landscaper and let them do it?
Sure.
A DIY approach versus an easy button solution. But only you folks watching this at your nonprofits are going to know the answers to these questions and how they resonate for your group.
Absolutely. That's very helpful and a great, I love the easy button analogy for the power purchase or the lease program. It really simplifies it, and it's really simple on the loan as well. I think it makes a lot of sense for those that do have the construction experience and are willing to take on the risk that's involved with it to be able to benefit from the ownership, to take advantage of some of the benefits from owning the system as well. Super.
That's my little PSA about CollectiveSun there. We're here for good.
Yeah, go ahead.
It really is our passion working with nonprofits and helping them find solutions that make sense for them and helping to empower them to take the savings from going solar and put it back into their communities where it really makes a difference, and let them focus on providing these these valuable services and essential programming to their communities. So we love being a part of it.
And you're doing an incredible job doing it. So thank you for that. Really doing amazing work in that space. Well, thank you, Nicole. It's been an absolute pleasure. Appreciate your time, all your hard work and effort that you're putting into this, and the amazing change that you're making happen in the solar industry. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure, Warren. Appreciate the invitation.